Good evening, everybody. I'm so happy to be here with you tonight, and thank you so much. And I'm so excited because we're going to be hosting the most wonderful, amazing woman, Lana Parrilla. And I know you all know her, and I love her too. And before she comes on, I want to say Happy Mother's Day. We're so excited. Lana!
Surprise!
So I
Didn't mean
love
to
your
interrupt you.
hair.
Thank
How are
you.
you managing that during the coronavirus?
I've actually just let it go natural, which is,
This is natural?
this is natural. I mean, I
How
have to
about
do a
we
little bit
clone
here.
you?
Thank you.
I'm so happy to talk to you. It's so great. Oh my God, I have
Likewise.
a million things I want to talk to you about. So, first of all, I'm so happy that everybody's joining us, especially now. Everybody's nervous about whether we're going back to work or whether we are going back into real life or whether we're going to continue this quarantine and social distancing. And I wanted us both to celebrate Mother's Day with everyone and tell everybody that I'm so pleased to share this moment with you because nothing is more important than our mothers. And we, as mothers, those of us that are mothers, we want to congratulate every other mother because that's the best job of all. And I want to tell my daughters, Michelle and Ashley, that I love you so much. And no matter what, you're the most important people in my life. Love you.
Happy
So,
Mother's Day.
happy Mother's Day. I know
Thank
you
you.
have this amazing relationship with your mom.
I just left her. Yes, I
Really?
do. And I was on the fence about seeing her because of obvious, the
Yeah,
situation.
yeah.
But I've been tested now twice for
Right.
COVID and antibodies, and I've come back negative. So I thought, okay, I think I can see my mom. So I went over there. I made a meatloaf last night, and I brought it to her and beautiful flowers. And oh, I forgot to give her the card is in my bag. That's okay. I forgot the card. I kept telling her we went to the park with my dog Lola and went
Aw.
for a beautiful walk around the lake. And it was, really, really great to see her because I haven't been able to. But
I
after
know.
I was
Isn't that the
tested, I felt
worst
like,
that you can't spend time with your family?
yeah, it's very challenging. I only saw her once up until today, and I brought groceries to her, and I cried after because I didn't hug her. I didn't I didn't know where I was at that point, and I hadn't been tested, so I wanted to just be really careful. But it was very
Yeah, no,
strange.
but there's so many things people are saying about the tests too, that you're only as good as this one day when you're tested negative and nobody knows about tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I
I
know.
mean,
I
it's
know.
like that's you have to be tested very often. But tell me, you had the antibodies test, right?
I did. I
And you
did.
tested negative or positive for so you have the antibodies or
I
you
don't.
don't?
I've tested negative across the board for which I was kind of bummed about. There was a part of me that was hoping that I would have tested positive for antibodies, but I don't know how good these tests are, how accurate they are.
Well, they say that if you're taking, any kind of vitamins for your hair or skin, biotin, it camouflages the tests. So nobody knows
Okay.
what the results are. So, but I am the same. I don't know because, having the antibodies kind of makes you feel safer, like you're not going to get it, but then you don't know how long it's going to last. So either way, you're sort of like taking a risk no matter what.
Well, there's so much uncertain about what this virus is. And, we've heard that it lives on plastic for X amount of hours or days. And then we've heard, no, that's not true anymore. And so much of it is uncertain that you can't really rely or depend on the research or information that's coming our way right now.
Exactly. So we want to tell all of you, just be careful. We want you to feel safe. We want you to be happy and healthy. And
Yes.
so it's important that we just talked about it for a moment, because I know all of you are sharing the same questions. So be safe.
Yes, be safe and be responsible. It's very important.
Yeah. So, Lana, let's talk about you, because you are amazing. I mean, you come from a family where your father is an athlete, a baseball player, your mom is an artist, and
Yes.
your aunt is a Broadway actress. So you kind of, your DNA must be like going wild, because you're a mixture of Italian and Puerto Rican. Am I
That's where I
correct?
think that's where this hair comes from. Yeah, that's
Well,
where
I
this
love the
comes
hair,
from.
so let's have more of that.
Thank
Um,
you.
but
I
so
love yours
tell,
too, by the way. You have such
yeah, but mine
beautiful
is
full
kind of
hair.
straight, so I actually curled it with my hairbrush and my blower. Nowadays, we have to do it all ourselves. So but it's fun, isn't it? We're trying all new things. So, I mean, knowing this history that you have, tell me about your childhood and what was it that motivated you to get into the entertainment industry and want to live vicariously through other characters? And what is it inside of you that felt a sense of comfort moving in that direction and growing in that direction?
Well, I was influenced by my aunt, who is the Broadway actress, who's also been a very, successful television and film actress as well. She worked with everybody, like Gene Wilder and Anne Bancroft and Mel Brooks and Dom DeLuise, and was on
Wow.
Rhoda and Colucci's Apartment and Taxi and Who's the Boss and I mean, you name it. She's been working in this industry for so long, and Broadway. So we grew up in a very artistic family. On my mother's side, my mother's been painting since she was younger. My grandfather was always making these really interesting artistic projects. Like our house had things on the wall, art on the wall, and art in the backyard. And my grandfather was a jack of all trades. He was a bit of a beatnik growing up. He was a total rebel. And my grandmother was very much ahead of her time. They were both born in Brooklyn. So their parents were born in Sicily, but they were born in Brooklyn. And like my grandmother was juicing back in the 40s,
Wow.
and she was very health conscious, and we ate a lot of fish and a lot of so my mother, I grew up very health conscious and diet oriented. As a kid, I was always sketching and drawing. I was looking up to my mother. My dad was an athlete, but he also used to sketch and play these different characters and pretend to be different characters. So I was just surrounded by imagination and letting your imagination sort of fly in all different directions. And I was encouraged to pretend to be other people. My grandfather did a lot of home videos on an 8 millimeter film. We came from a very funny background. One of the famous movies was, the Attack of the Killer Handkerchief, and so you would see this handkerchief fly, in frame, and the camera's on my grandmother, and she's cooking at the stove, and then she would turn around and get smothered by the handkerchief and die. It was like this really comedic household. And my father was the same. I have great footage of him, pretending to be some other character and making these silly faces. And on top of it, he was an incredible athlete. So I had
How was
sports
it? How
and
was it
art.
for you? How was it for you and him being an athlete? What was it like as a child being with a father who's an athlete like that?
It's really funny. This is such a great question because it was very stressful. He wanted boys, and my sister and I are girls. So it was like we grew up, you know, kind of forced to play softball. It wasn't a dream of mine. It wasn't something I gravitated towards. I liked volleyball. I loved basketball. And softball I enjoyed, but it was more like forced upon me. He was at every game. He was at every practice. The,
Wow.
the fun part about it was, you know, he was a pro. So my team would get really excited when he would show up, and they would want him to hit a ball, and the ball would go lost. We could never find those balls. But, you know, so it was fun, but it was also nerve-wracking. And I felt like I was never good enough
Oh,
growing up.
really?
Yeah, as in, you know,
Because
in
he was
sports.
such a great athlete. I
Yeah.
know he played for the Philadelphia team, right?
Yes,
The
he did.
Phillies. Oh my God, that must have been amazing, though, for him to spend so much time that you felt so like your daddy was there for you, you know?
You know, you're right. I did. And that's one of the beautiful memories that I have with my father is even though in the moment it was terrifying to experience him there at every practice. And then we would go from practice to then practice with him. So I would have double practice and it was wonderful to have that support and have a father there at every single game. I have heard stories from many people that said, God, my father was always working or he
Right,
never, you
right.
know, showed up. And so looking back, I'm really grateful that he was there for me. And it did help me become a better player.
Wow.
Um,
Even
yeah,
though
but
you
every,
didn't like it that much. But when did
right.
you lose your father?
I lost him when I was 16.
Oh my God, that must have been tough.
It was very tough. It was tragic how I lost him because he was murdered. So it was very tragic. It was horrible to experience.
Oh my God, I had no idea. How did you
Yeah.
deal with that?
Well, I mean, it's been years of learning how to deal with that and really understanding the issues in those communities with which I lived in, um, which is a really beautiful segment into what I'm currently working on this project. It's called Project Lead with NYC Together. And it was these Black Latino communities that just, you know, were really impacted by then the crack epidemic, by the crime rates were high, and it was very challenging being in that area. And my dad was really at the wrong place at the wrong time, and he was really an innocent in this situation. And so um, what it's done for me is it's made me really want to educate these communities and help the youth in these communities to sort of pull out of you know these situations that they find themselves in, which is you know they don't have a way out. They need programs, they need counselors, and so I feel like I'm kind of a really perfect example of a child who was in situations like that where you know we didn't have those organizations, we didn't have those programs, I didn't have that support, and I really want to help those kids that are in those situations to give them an alternative because
Because you've gone through the experience, you'd have so much to say and to
yes,
help people. But
yeah.
that's interesting that you're working on a project that deals with that. How did you deal? Did you deal with? Did you? You must have had enormous anger for a while. That somehow you lost your father for no reason. How did you
Oh, I
deal with
did.
that?
Oh, I did. I mean, I went through, first of all, I was a teenager, so I hated
Right.
everybody and everything. And I was angry at, you know, I believe in God. So, but then I was very angry at God and I stopped believing in God for years. I said,
Wow.
well, why would God do this to me? This is so not godly. And I didn't understand. And so I rebelled. I was very difficult. I was very angry. I didn't want to be around the family. Um, and my only escape really was my art. And so,
Working.
yeah, I found a way to sort of channel all of that energy into working through characters
Now you know
and
it's
funneling
interesting.
that through my characters.
It's interesting because when I went through my divorce, the one thing that saved me is because I'm a writer.
Yeah.
And the one thing that saved me is writing. I wrote a book and I literally lived vicariously through the characters. And it saved me because I didn't have to deal as much with the pain by escaping into other characters. And I literally, I would write and then I would wake up almost and I would realize, oh my God, now I'm back in my own life, you know, because it was like coming out of the zone. So I understand what you're saying. So you dealt with it through vicariously living through different characters. But what was it that woke you up and eliminated the anger from you?
Um, Really just trusting that, I can't control these things that happen in our lives. Like, I'm not alone in the world who, a child who lost a father tragically. I wasn't targeted, it wasn't like I did anything bad in my life to deserve this. I had to work through that with several hours of therapy, reading several self-help books, and also sort of looking at this and working with my father in the ways that I have through dreams, through communication, through prayer, and trusting that all of this has happened for a reason. It has shaped the woman that I am today. And I have to look at this as it's not necessarily a good thing, but I just have to trust that this has happened for a reason. And now I have to take this and do something good with it.
No, I completely understand. In fact, I was getting a bit teary because it's hard to, I understand it so well because my father also passed away in an accident and it was the hardest thing in the world for me to go through. I
Yeah.
couldn't sleep for 4 months and
Yeah.
literally I would wake up every night in cold sweat and you just have to believe. What helped me was actually I turned to spirituality
Mm.
and it was just trusting in God that really helped me through. But it was really difficult. So I understand what you went through. So was that kind of why you got so close to your mom?
Partially, I've always been close to my mother. My parents separated when I was young. I spent most of my time with my mom, and then I lived with my dad. I did go back and forth, but my mom and I actually have gotten closer over the last, I would say, 10 years, 10 to 15 years. And that was something that she and I diligently worked on. I knew that it, having a relationship with my mother and understanding her and getting close to her was a relationship that I wanted. And so we developed a way of communicating where I'm very open with my mom, and I stopped having like the expectations out of my mom, like wanting her to do this and wanting her to be a certain way, and just really loving her for who she is.
Acceptance.
Yeah, and it really brought us to another place in our relationship where we have a lot in common. We share a lot of the same interests, and so things that we do together is it's like she's my favorite person to travel with.
I know I heard that you were going to take her to Italy to celebrate her
Yeah,
roots, and I think you did, right?
I
You
did.
did
Yeah,
go. How was that?
we had the best time. Truly, I love her. She's so cute because she never complains. It's never too much. It's always enough. She never wants anything more than what you give her. She's never asked for anything. Like, she's just so enjoyable. She likes to drink wine. We like to drink wine together. She's extremely athletic herself. She has an incredible amount of stamina. She dances like 3 nights a week. She's 76 and she looks like she's in her early 60s. She's just, she's a superwoman. And I'm really, spending today with her. I just look at her and I just love her so much. She'd never been to Sicily and it was her biggest dream. And I said, well, I'm taking you. And I brought her to the town Via Vete, which is where her grandparents were from. She'd always wanted to go there. And it's a small little town in Sicily. And we went, and she was just like a little girl, you know,
Oh,
like seeing something for the first time. She was just so bright-eyed. And I'm really fortunate to have had, God bless, the success that I've had that's afforded me to give her the things that she always desired and dreamed of having for herself.
I love you talking about it because I know when people listen, they really get the feeling. I mean, I get all the love from you that you're feeling, and I hope this really helps a lot of people understand how important mothers are in our lives.
Yes.
I mean, I'm hoping my own daughters, Ashley and Michelle, listen. But
You're
it's
gonna
so
make me cry.
important for us. Yeah, no, I mean, it's like I was almost crying too. Anyway, but let's talk about, just so that I won't burst into tears, let's talk about
Okay.
some of these amazing characters that you've played. I mean, the the dreams that people have when they watch what I do as president of a television network, and the things we put out, and what you do creating characters. But the dream is the fairy tale. Now, you were fortunate enough to be in Once Upon a Time, which is the combination of every fairy tale. And you're playing, this evil queen, but evil queen that has sort of reasoning for every evil thing that she does. And I was
Yeah.
waiting for the love, of her life to come into her life and change everything. But you gave her lots of color. So I want you to talk about this character and what he did in your life.
Well, speaking about using sort of your life and finding ways to sort of channel things through characters, it becomes a very cathartic experience. Even when you were writing your book, it's like you're sort of living vicariously through them, but on a very unconscious, subconscious level, you're healing
It's in
these
the
wounds.
zone. I call it the zone.
It's the zone, but you're also healing some things
Yes.
inside.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
yeah, and I found with Regina, I never want to judge. You can't judge your characters. You can't. You have to understand the origin of their behavior, why they do these things. And so even though she committed so many horrific acts, I had to understand, where does this come from? And when I went to her pain and I went to her sorrow and despair, I actually found a great amount of compassion for her. And I fell in love with her, and I just wanted to serve her right by telling her story, not just through anger, but through vulnerability. And
And you did.
yes, and I knew that that would sustain, because if you only show this sort of evil, angry, vindictive person, that's a very limiting amount of emotions. You can't. No one's going to want to watch that consistently. It's going to be a massive turnoff. But if you show the why is she doing this? And you also show her sort of inner struggle with her decisions and her actions, then she becomes more relatable and more human.
Yeah, and I saw that. I was actually surprised by some of the choices you made as an actor, and I love the fact that you were so honest with your character, that it really emerged. And I know you've been awarded for it and all of that stuff, but there's something about the fairy tale element of what we're watching that gives us the good and evil that compete with each other. And
Yeah.
you were able to embody that in one character. So, my frustration was I wanted her to grow more because felt there was so much room, for her to become, because we grow through growth, and there was so much that as a writer, I felt like, oh my God, it could have been this and it could have been that. So, what about you? Where did you want to take her? I know it was limited because you have no control, but where would you have taken her?
Well, She did reach a really beautiful level of learning how to deal with both her darkness and her light. And for many, many seasons, she rejected her darkness. In the beginning, she really embraced it and thought that that was what was going to bring her happiness, is being angry and, forcing her way through situations and threatening people. But with her son Henry, the fear of losing that love is really
Yes.
what started to change her. And I feel that that was the best gift that they could have given to that character, because then she started her healing path. She started making amends, and she started a lot of self-reflection and looking within, going, okay, I really need to take ownership of these things, and I need to start to do things differently if I want a different outcome. And I feel like she did get to some place of redemption, not only with others, but within herself.
Oh, I
And
agree.
yeah, and I think I would have liked to have had her find love again,
Yes.
and that would have been beautiful. And I think if the show continued, we probably would have gotten there. I think what happens when these shows sort of are abruptly
Stop.
ended, yeah, it's like they try to sort of wrap up a happy ending. How do we get there? How do we get there? I think in their minds they would have wanted a couple more seasons to develop, a new love for Regina after Robin Hood was killed, and have her on that journey of maybe, finding a way to grow her family, maybe have a biological child somehow.
Yes.
These are dreams that I think she wanted, even though she felt very content with Henry and loved her son. That was her son, blood or not, no blood, like he was her son.
Right.
Um, but I do think that she would have loved to have explored a bit more with love and have it be successful and long lasting.
No, I agree. And there's so many questions that people are wanting to ask. But before I go into
Sure.
questions, I really want to know something. You've played so many characters. You've built such a portfolio. And I'm sure all of those experiences are inside your core now. So where are you going with it? What is it? You talked about the project that you're involved with right now, and I'd love to know where you're going as an artist.
Well, funny enough, I was working very, very hard to play Roxy Hart on Broadway. And
Ah,
yeah, and it was just a matter of scheduling. And we were in the works of scheduling, and we were working also on Velma. And so that was happening, and I really wanted to move into theater again because I hadn't done it since I was quite young. And so since August, I've been training.
oh my
And
goodness.
I know, and I'm just so heartbroken because there were all these Roxys that were booked up, and we were trying to figure out where it was going to fit in, and it probably was going to be towards like October, November of this year. But now with Broadway being on hold and all the other Roxys that were lined up to play, it's really kind of set everything further back for me. So I'm not sure if or when that will happen. But my heart was so broken because I had the biggest dream was to sing and dance on Broadway. I mean, it's every actor's dream.
Oh, absolutely, especially because of your aunt and your
Yeah.
inspiration.
And also just to say, I can do theater, and I have done theater, and I miss doing theater, and I just want to get back to that. But simultaneously, I was also working on my directing, because I got to direct on Once Upon a Time, and so there's
Right.
a short that we were working on. There's another movie that I'm hoping to produce that I've been cast as the female lead on, and it's a romantic comedy, which is people
Oh,
haven't
that
seen
would be
me.
great for you.
Yeah, and I love comedy. I started my career in comedy. And Regina was the sort of the humorous out of all the characters. She had those
And
funny one-liners.
you had some great moments of comedy with her. I mean, you
Yeah.
just, the unexpected and the way you sometimes just stood there and let it breathe. And all of a sudden, I'm cracking up because it was so funny, you know. But let's get some questions because I know everybody is trying to get
Sure.
to you.
Oh, of
So,
course.
okay, so here we are. Karen, no, Gina, I don't know. Wait a minute. Okay. I don't know who it
Oh,
is because it's Emma Swan. Um, she's asking if you speak Portuguese.
I so wish I spoke Portuguese, because there are so many beautiful fans in Brazil, and I really, really wish that I could speak to them. But I all I know is te amo and obrigado.
Obrigado. I have a big family in
Obrigado.
Brazil, so that's the word.
That's the word.
And then now we have, oh, I don't know the name of the
Disney
person.
Tangled Girl.
Disney Tangled Gore, whatever.
Okay.
What was the hardest scene you had to do to feel for once?
Well, I would say one of the hardest scenes I had to film for Once Upon a Time was the scene with Regina's father in the underworld when he comes back. And she gets to confront her father after she had killed him years ago. And that was the hardest scene for me to film for many reasons. Just not only for Regina seeing her father for the first time after she killed him, but also just for Lana and me having to, have dealt with a father, who was tragically taken from me, and have always wished and prayed that I had an opportunity to see him one more time.
You're going to make me cry again. I'm going
Yeah.
to the next question.
Sorry, please do.
So now from beautiful underscore Parrilla. I don't know who that is, but obviously you do.
I like the name.
Would you do a Swan Queen spin-off if you could, Lana?
I absolutely would do one. Absolutely. Do you know what Swan Queen is? Are you
No.
familiar? Okay, so Swan Queen is the dream of Emma Swan and Regina Mills becoming a couple. So two women
Oh,
in a
okay.
it's the two mothers, and I don't know if they will ever write that, but if there was one, I would absolutely be open to it.
That would be interesting because you know what I was thinking about is here we are celebrating Mother's Day, and we're talking about Regina as a mother, and that motivated her to move from being one thing into the other. And so I think it's interesting to think about two women that's in that sort of unparametered reality. That's interesting. What was your reaction when you read that Robin Hood was going to die?
I was devastated for many reasons. One,
Tell us some.
for Regina, especially because she was about to lose the love of her life. And secondly, for myself, because Sean Maguire and I are so close, and he's been one of my favorite love interests that I've had to play, on television. And I was going to miss him. I was really going to miss him, and I did, and I really did miss him. So I cried pretty hard when on his last day.
Aww.
Yeah, I fell apart.
So here's one interesting one from Swan underscore Queen underscore Love underscore RP. Who would you be from any TV show?
Oh, wow. Who would I be from any TV show? I would probably love to do anything that Jessica Lange has done on American Horror Story, because she gets to play all these different characters, and she's one of my favorite actresses. Love her career. I just think it's phenomenal, and I love her.
It's interesting you say that because I think her choices are about experiencing, and that to me is the ultimate as an artist to be able to reach something, some plateau that you never thought you could. So I
And to
love
be
that.
able to work with Ryan Murphy is a dream of mine.
Oh my God, yes.
I mean,
So this person is what? Leden
that's a
Ceramos? What?
Ledenice Ramos.
Ledenise Ceramos. Have you ever considered writing a book about your experiences?
Yes, I have, but I think I need to wait another maybe 20 years to do so. I
Oh, I
feel like
don't know,
that's a
but
project a
let
little
me,
bit later I want to do in my life.
yeah. Um, Here's an interesting one from V.S. Morrison. Lana, do you prefer reading or writing?
Yeah, that's a tough one because I really love both. I love reading, and I love writing, but my writing is more my journaling and personal thoughts and feelings I like to work through. Although I will say I just started writing a short, so I'm writing a second short actually, but I think I prefer reading right now. But we'll see if as I develop as a
But you
writer.
know, it's as a writer, I have to tell you something. It's interesting. I used to read, and I would lose myself in every book, and I hated finishing the book and getting to the end because it stopped my life within the book.
Hmm.
But somehow, when I started really writing, all of a sudden the experience of being in the zone was so satisfying that it's interesting to be in that space because it gives you so much. So I recommend that you write because you have had some unbelievable experiences, and
Hmm.
the depth, which I can feel just looking into your eyes, I can see such soulfulness that I think you have a lot to say. And and writing a journal is like writing a book. You basically let go. I mean, I'm always surprised when I finish writing and I read it and went, oh my God, did I write that? And then I
Right.
think I could never write again. It's like
Hmm.
actors think they could never perform again to the same level that they have excelled in. It's
Yeah.
always new and unknown. But we have from Regina
Thank you.
Scott.
Thank you for that. That's really inspiring. And I have countless journals. You should see, I have about 5 journals completely filled for Regina and all that I've written for her. So
I would pursue
I
it
think I need
because
to do, yeah,
I would
write about my
pursue it
life.
because Regina is such an interesting character. There's so many levels that could be written about that, the other sides and the other facets of that character that
Mhm.
I could see you developing into as you're watching the series. There's so much you have to say that
Mhm.
I would do something with that because you really gave a gift when you were performing her. And so I feel like it's something I told you, I felt like it was unfinished, even though they tried to finish it, and tie up all the knots.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
we
Thank
have
you.
Reggie. It's true. What
Regina's
Regina,
cult.
yeah, Regina Scott. What was your favorite season of
Once Upon a Time.
Yes, Once Upon a Time?
That's a tough one, but I love season 1 for all the reasons that it was brand new and it was so exciting because we never knew what was going to happen. And when the curse lifted, it was like, oh my God. I mean, it was so unexpected. Um, and then I really loved season 6 because it was the first time Regina got to confront the evil queen and seeing the duality between the two characters and playing opposite myself the entire season was a very educational experience for me. I grew a lot as an artist.
Schizo, right?
Yes, totally crazy.
Okay, so Sophia.w.g is asking, out of all the characters you've played, which one do you identify with most?
Oh, wow. Um,
Wow, that's a big
Probably,
one.
yeah. There's it's a difficult one because I really have a little bit of all of them in me. You know, Trina was the advocate for open marriage. And even though that's not my lifestyle, her open mind and how she sees the world and without judgment and how she accepts everyone for who they are, that's a huge part of who I am. I played a trauma surgeon, and that character with her beautiful heart and how she wanted to help people is such a huge part of me. Regina, you know, the temper, that's definitely a part of me. But then there's also her depth of to love is also another part of me. So I that's a tough one. I feel like I relate to many of them.
Yeah. So, you know, it's really interesting. You just mentioned, you know, a first responder, and we're thinking and praying for all the first responders right now. And I was just, because I went to have the antibodies test, and I was at UCLA hospital, and I was looking at all those people that are dedicating their lives, moving around in those suits and the masks and the gloves. And, you know, even though everyone that comes in gets tested, you know, the temperature and all of that, they're risking their lives every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have so much admiration for those people who choose as their profession to go the extra mile for us. And, you know, this coronavirus has helped us appreciate them more and more. And in a way, you know, we're appreciating family more, we're appreciating the earth more, because the earth is taking a breath of fresh air, you know, and we're appreciating each other more, and we're much more loving. So I think that's the positive side, but definitely the first responders. There was beautiful question that I wanted. What was it? What was your favorite character from Once Upon a Time besides
her? Right. Well, I really loved playing the bandit version of Regina, and it's when Snow White and the Evil Queen swapped roles. And Jennifer Goodwin got to play the evil one, and I got to play the bandit, sort of, you know, Princess Snow. And I loved it. And there was something just really sort of like grounding and earthy about her. And I really relate to that part. I'm very sort of hippie, grounded. I love camping. I like being in the woods. You know, these are other parts of my character. And I had just fun. I had fun frolicking in the woods and jumping over logs and being a kid in that way. So that was one version I really loved. Yeah.
Okay, this is a good one too. This is a good one. It's Frida Kahlo. Frida Kahlo, how are you?
Welcome.
What's your hidden talent?
I would say I love riding horses. People know that.
Too.
Yeah. I'm a pretty good rider. What other? I'm a pretty good dancer too. I guess singing is still being developed, but you know, that's probably what it is. And I'm also very musical. A lot of people don't know that about me, but I have a great musical ear.
And there was this episode that was a musical.
Right.
And you were singing.
I was, and it was amazing.
And I thought it was great.
That was a talent I didn't even know I had. I was always fearful of doing something like that. And actually doing that episode is what gave me the idea that I wanted to do a musical on Broadway. And that's what really pushed me forward into that direction.
So tell me about that episode. That was amazing. It was totally unexpected. And I thought you were great.
Thank you. Thank you. They actually
I was surprised. I must tell you, I was surprised. Because that's a lot to ask of an actor, but you just jumped into it. So how did it come about? Did you have to rehearse a lot? Were there some real nervous moments?
So Adam and Eddie, our creators, said we are going to do a musical episode. And they said, don't worry, you're going to have plenty of time to rehearse. All the songs will be written for you. We're going to see everyone's sort of vocal capabilities, and the songs will be catered, you know, to your voice and structured around what you can do. And so we had like a vocal test, basically. And then they came and said, Lana, we're giving you a big dance number on top of it. You can dance, right? And I said, it's been some time, but yeah, I can dance. I'm Puerto Rican. I can dance. It's in there. So I rehearsed for about 3 weeks. We all did, but I had the big dance number, so mine was a little more challenging, I feel, because I was dancing and singing, and it was a big dance number. And I absolutely loved it. I wanted to rehearse every single day. I kept saying, please don't write me in the previous episode to the musical, because I just want to dance and rehearse and sing every single day leading up to the musical episode. And they did keep me light. And I honestly, I could do that every day. I really could. It was one of my favorite episodes to film.
I was so surprised. I think everybody was. So did you guys like take a lot longer shooting that episode than anything else?
We did, and it really changed the energy, not just within the actors that were playing and singing, but the crew. Everyone was humming, everyone was singing, everyone loved that episode. It was different for everybody. And we had a blast.
Yeah, I could tell. No, that's great. So interesting that sort of gave you the feeling that you should go and do Broadway. I personally love that idea because I think there's nothing like going to the theater and being on stage and actually being able to express yourself in a totally different way and have to do it every day, twice a day, and still be fresh.
Well, you know, I really come from the school of, and this is how I approach everything in my life. What terrifies you the most, go towards. You know, don't run away from it. Actually lean towards it, and you're going to grow and discover so much about yourself, and you're going to overcome the fear. So my greatest fear of being on stage and singing in front of, 1,500 people and dancing, it terrifies me. And yet I want to experience it because I don't want to be bound by this fear. I want it to dissipate.
I love it.
Yeah.
So let's talk, because we have very few minutes, and I want to just get really into something that I think we can share with everybody. Spirituality. How we get through difficult periods, especially now. And where are you with your own spirituality and your own growth? And what can you tell other people that will inspire them to reach deep inside and move towards the light?
Well, this is a really beautiful question, and thank you. I was with a dear friend of mine yesterday, and he said it so eloquently, and I could relate, because this has been my experience, especially during this quarantine, which is I felt I was living so much in the fear, which is what I was talking about, lean towards it and go into the fear. And I feel now I have settled in just my faith and having faith in God, having faith in that I am on the right path. And through meditating every single day, through prayer, it has been the most rewarding and the most validating. And I keep getting these signs. My feather is a big symbol of mine, and I keep seeing them on my path, and especially as of late, which is just a confirmation and validation that I am on the right path. And even in this quarantine, often we look and go, God, I can't believe this is happening. It's awful. It is awful if you just choose to focus on how awful it is. And like you said, if you are taking the position of, what could I do with this time? The world has never been paused, and not in our lifetime. And we have the opportunity to do the things that we've always wanted to do, whether it's, read more or write or develop a new skill, learn a new language. I look at all of this as such an incredible gift. It has humbled me. It has made me be so appreciative of everything that I have, the people in my life. My faith in God has grown. My faith in the people around me and in within myself has grown. Meditation is really helped me get quiet and see things that I truly, truly desire and want within myself, and learning how to manifest again. It's really deepened me as a person, and it's also made me discover that I could really go down any path, because I don't know what's happening in my industry. But every job and every opportunity is a gift, and it should be celebrated. And it's, maybe I want to be doing this, but I'm doing this, and celebrate that. So I've really learned to accept everything that I have right now, and just celebrate it. And that has been the truest and most beautiful gift that's come out of this time.
That's so beautiful. Truly
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you.
And on that, I just want to give you some regards from somebody who is a friend of yours, but also admires you a great deal,
Yeah.
Radha Mitchell.
Oh, I
And
love her.
I love her too, and she sends love to you.
Thank
She
you.
actually has been quarantined, so I haven't seen her for a while, and she's family to me. So, but she told me when I told her today that I was going to talk to you, she said, "Oh my God, I love her. She's amazing and such a beautiful, deep person." It's been such a pleasure.
Oh,
So
likewise.
wonderful.
This
And
has
I'd
been
love
one of
us
the
to get
most
together
beautiful.
and spend some quality time, because I think you're wonderful. And thank you so much for giving so much of yourself to everybody who's watching. Really.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This has been such a beautiful experience. I love meeting you. I would love
Me
to spend
too.
time with you in person.
Me too. As soon
So
as we can.
yes,
As
yes.
soon as we can. But God willing, we will very soon. And
Soon.
God bless.
And
And
you. Thank
God
you,
bless
Daphne.
all
Thank
of you
you.
out there. I love you all. Please tune into CINEMOI, CINEMOI. We're on the iOS now, and so all you have to do is get your iPhone, put CINEMOI in your app store on the search, and get it, because you'll see the most amazing movies, fashion, all this live entertainment. It's really beautiful. And please, please, Lana, keep on this track. You have so much to give to all of us.
Thank you, my love. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. Kobe Zoo, big kiss.